Hi, my name is Jeff Norris. I'm a gifted education teacher at Chelsea Intermediate School and Shelby Elementary School. I teach 3rd through 5th grade gifted education pullout. I'm also a part of the Chelsea Intermediate School school leadership team and also the Shelby County gifted education leadership team. And I think it's important for us today to look at a specific problem that we have been having in our county for a number of years. And today I'm going to give a presentation on how our county strategic plan relates to this problem, some of the plans that we've used in the past and how they're currently working, and some ideas for the future. And I'm calling this presentation Planting Roots and Spreading Wings. It's an analysis of Shelby County strategic plan and how it relates to reading instruction for hind learners. Today's presentation has several parts. I'm first going to identify and discuss the problem at hand, give some specific articles and prior literature about the topic. I'm going to go through a brief outline of the Shelby County strategic vision and how it relates to the problem. I'm going to talk a little bit about our strategic planning team for the county, and then I'm also going to go on a school level and talk about our Chelsea Intermediate School strategic vision, our planning team, and how we have assessed the problem at our school level. The last part of the presentation is going to talk about some of the specific plans, action plans in order to meet the strategic plan, and also how we monitor and evaluate, how we use community resources, and how we communicate our plan to stakeholders in the community. And then last, we're going to look at strengths and weaknesses of the plan that we've used in the past year, and then some ideas for the future. Kelly Gallagher writes a book called Read-A-Side, and he is a high school English teacher, and he defines this new word, read-a-side, as the destruction of the joy of reading by schools. And I think this is something that I've seen in the past several years, and so it's something that we definitely needed to address in Shelby County. One of the things that I noticed was that as our school system, like many others, begins to use more instruction based on basal readers and research-based texts and assessments, they begin to decrease the amount of time spent in authentic texts and on studying, discussing, and being involved in real authentic literature. And when they're doing this, students' perceptions of reading are often suffering. Especially the gifted students that I work with and the hind readers that I work with are having a lot of trouble in reading, not necessarily with their reading assessments, but more with their attitudes towards reading. And so I really feel like we need to work on meeting and exceeding our expectations for these hind readers. One of the one of the texts that I've been reading lately is by Dr. Stephen Lane, and he talks about igniting a passion in students for reading. And he is actually good friends with Kelly Gallagher, and that's how I found his book. But he says one of the things that he notices is that there are twice as many students who are illiterate as students who are illiterate. And what he means by that is illiterate students are students who can't read, illiterate students are students who can read but choose not to. And that is something that we definitely do not want in Shelby County or at Chelsea Intermediate School. In Shelby County, hind readers are often isolated and independent for hours in the classroom each week. The way that our core reading block is set up, our low-end readers and our intervention students are in small groups with the classroom teacher for about 50 minutes per day, whereas our high-end students, or students who have already met the standards in reading, are only meeting for approximately 20 to 40 minutes per week. So when we're comparing these two groups of students, we have one group who's meeting with the teacher 20 to 40 minutes of small group time, and one group who's meeting with the teacher for at least 250 minutes per week. And I think that equity demands that we look at where we're placing our emphasis and find a way to be more equitable towards all our groups of students. The gifted readers in Shelby County are no longer being challenged by the instruction or text that are on their levels. Their love for reading is being diminished, and we definitely need to create a plan to continue strengthening the instruction for these high-end readers. A quote that I found that I really like is by Pennington, and he says that gifted readers frequently get lost in the mix because their needs tend to whisper, while the needs of remedial students tend to shout. And I think that's so true, especially looking at the time constraints we have and the emphasis on time that we place on the different groups we teach. Whitty, way back in 1985, really had some of these same issues that we're having today, and he has a couple of good points that I found. He says that gifted readers are so advanced that they have little to gain from the reading materials and activities normally given to others of their age and grade. They require far less drill and practice than their peers. He also says that gifted readers tend to have an internal locus of control. These students are not necessarily, he calls them gifted readers, but I associate this with high-end readers because not all of these are identified gifted students, but most of these students do have an intrinsic motivation. They like to read, they want to read, and they want to really dig deep into text, and they're not getting that opportunity. Whitty also says that gifted readers usually master basic reading skills by the time they come to school, and they're ready for complex concepts at an early age. And the way that our curriculum is structured, many times our students are covering the same material each year, and a lot of our gifted readers and high-end readers have already mastered this material. Cloud, Silva, and Sadowski said about basal readers, which is another issue with this reading instruction for high-end readers, that the more teachers use the basal reader, the more alienated they actually become from their reading instruction. And these teachers that these two authors studied said that although they know that basal textbooks may not be the best method, they felt pressure from administrators or maybe from their county curriculum to use them in their classroom. Sale in 2010 noted that many teachers have students simply reading the basal stories themselves and not using authentic literature like chapter books or nonfiction texts. And he says that those authentic literature texts support oral comprehension skills, they support listening comprehension, they support listening vocabulary, and all of those things lead to a better reading comprehension. And I've definitely noticed this in our county as well, that just for ease of planning and for sake of time, teachers will use the basal stories, and that they're not given a chance to use authentic literature. Kendall says that using basal readers eliminates individual teachers' creativity and their use of questioning skills. They begin reading straight from the basal for their choice of questions. They lose the dialoguing skill that gifted students and high-end readers really need, the back and forth conversations about their text. And I definitely think in the workshops that I've presented in the past year, that this is something we really notice about teachers in Shelby County, that they really feel like they're losing their autonomy, their creativity, the openness, and that was one of the main reasons they became teachers, was for that creative outlet, their outlet for their creativity. And so it's definitely important that we find a way to merge the two topics. Dooley notes that integrating content area subjects into reading and using literature to teach strategies, as well as to promote cultural awareness, challenge, and choice among gifted readers is essential. And he really promotes critical reading skills, where students can question and analyze the text in order to achieve the most meaning. And our county has been doing more of this lately. Again, for sake of time, mostly, is that we're integrating more social studies and science content text into our reading block, and that's a very smart idea. In Shelby County, we have an amazing continuous school improvement plan, and it is well organized, it's very articulate, it's well publicized, it's won awards in the state of Alabama, and it really is an amazing piece of work that our county has put together. We have lots of key figures at the county office who are in charge of our continuous school improvement plan, and it works its way down to a school level and to